Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you here today with an article from MRC News. Busters is America's media watchdog, and strap in, this is going to be a long one, and it says, exclusive, Wikipedia effectively blacklists all right-leaning media, smearing Trump, GOP, and conservatives. So essentially this should be entitled, Things You Probably Already Knew Wikipedia Was Doing, but We're About to Provide the Receipts. This is dated February 3rd, so like I said, strap on in, because it's going to be a bit of a long one. So, let's do this. It says, hoping to avoid misinformation about President Donald Trump's nominees and appointments on Wikipedia? Good luck. Wikipedia has designated a protocol that directly and unerringly produces the worst descriptions about conservatives and Republicans by virtually guaranteeing that right-leaning media sources cannot be cited. The once reliable online encyclopedia ran off the rails under the leadership of its previous CEO, Catherine Marr, who made sure that not a single right-leaning outlet was deemed reliable, a stark contrast to the 84% of leftist media Wikipedia deems reliable. And it's funny that they do stuff like this because it's like, you see leftist media, it's like constant lies and things that they're constantly getting like community noted on X4, that stuff like that, where it's just they're always proven wrong, and people on the right who almost never happens to are deemed unreliable. So anyway, there's a new study by Media Research Center Free Speech America found that Wikipedia, the encyclopedia behemoth, has effectively blacklisted all right-leaning media from being used as source material, exclusively relying on leftist legacy media notoriously known to spread misinformation and attack opponents on the left. Among the effectively blackballed media sources are Breitbart, The Daily Caller, Daily Mail, Newsmax, OANN, and the Media Research Center. So they themselves, they have a personal stake in this, if you will. So meanwhile, leftist media like The Atlantic, Jacobin, Mother Jones, ProPublica, why isn't that not italicized? Anyway, it says The Guardian, and NPR, National Public Radio, are given the green light. Jeez. Yeah, so it's like... oh god, I want to see what they're gonna. I haven't read this yet, so I know it's long because I scrolled down and I'm just like, this is a really big article. I wonder what we're about to uncover. It says the blatant misinformation means that Wikipedia is purposely feeding Americans information exclusively through the lens of one side of the political spectrum, the left. And I would guarantee that it's not just the left, but it's the far left. So it's an extreme side of one side of the political spectrum. It says positioning themselves as arbiters of truth, Wikipedia and its editors have effectively institutionalized a blacklisting system utilizing a reliable sources/perennial sources page that forbids the use of some of the most popular media sources on the right when editing Wikipedia pages. Their claims? Right-leaning sources are not reliable, and in some cases literally blacklisted, Wikipedia's actual word, from use on the platform altogether. The predictable effect? Conservatives, Republicans, and Trump appointees are smeared, maligned, and slandered by the most popular online source for information about people. Yeah, you can go to there's certain things I've looked at, I've looked at but tried to avoid looking at because I knew it was going to be completely biased. And you go and you're just like, this isn't true, guys. Like, you're lying. And I really think somebody needs to sue Wikipedia. And I know they try to blame it off like we're just a platform, not a publisher, or something like that Section 230 thing. But it's like someone really does need to sue them, and it's going to happen eventually because of all this stuff. So continuing on, it says, such a blockade has resulted in a disparate balance that disturbingly disadvantages right-leaning media. Wikipedia effectively blocks 100% of right-leaning media sources, the ones more likely to give fair treatment to the majority in Congress as well as to incoming officials to the Trump administration. On the contrary, only 16% of left-wing media sources failed to win a Wikipedia stamp of approval. So it's basically just they're right no matter what. Yeah, so that's a major ideological problem that Wikipedia has. Pointing out how Wikipedia's product has degraded over time, MRC Vice President Dan Schneider explained, quote, there used to be a joke about how Wikipedia could not be relied on by historians and academics. Wikipedia has now become the joke. Its radical editors and staff reveal their contempt for conservatives in almost everything they inject into descriptions. It was never something people could rely on for accurate information. It is now only reliable for pushing a radical narrative, end quote. Yeah, Wikipedia, I think themselves even says not to use them as a source. So there's that. So Schneider added, quote, the leadership as well as the rank-and-file editors are in constant overdrive to tear down their political opponents. From the policy issues Wikipedia highlights to their tone their editors use to castigate Trump and his appointees, Wikipedia is obviously designed to indoctrinate Americans into despising anything good and decent about mainstream conservatives. Says MRC's findings come as the Senate holds confirmation hearings for the Trump cabinet. I thought I read that wrong for a minute, and other nominees and appointments. Many Americans, including senators presumably, turn to Wikipedia to learn about Trump's employees. Little do they realize that Wikipedia is marring its pages with derogatory misinformation due to the dominance of leftist media sources, poisoning the Senate confirmation process because it exclusively gives fodder to one political faction attempting to discredit Trump's appointments and nominees. It says, make no mistake, Wikipedia's reliable sources page is tantamount to a blacklist, and it is part of a deliberate and systematic effort to make sure Americans only read media outlets that conform to the left's political ideology. What's worse is that Wikipedia is not even hiding it. So next section here. Where does the blacklist come from? As Wikipedia provides what it calls its reliable sources / perennial sources page, effectively a blacklist, as a non-exhaustive list of sources whose reliability and use on Wikipedia are frequently discussed. This page is where Wikipedia editors tally their determinations of reliable and non-reliable sources. The determinations occur on a separate page dubbed Reliable Sources / Notice Board. Once a conclusion is reached, each outlet is given a label, either generally reliable, no consensus, generally unreliable, deprecated, or blacklisted. And you can see the little symbols they use right there. How cute. Continuing on. It says, as detailed below, any outlet that is not part of the generally reliable category is effectively blacklisted and deemed guilty by lack of association. Blacklisted sources are considered spam and are automatically blocked from being cited by any source. These sources are thrown under a spam blacklist or in the Wikimedia Global Spam Blacklist. Deprecated sources, similar to those media sources included under blacklisted, are generally prohibited, with users who cite them being issued a warning message and their entries tagged. Generally unreliable sources are not far different from those included under blacklisted and deprecated. Wikipedia claims such sources should normally not be used. Users are urged to find a more reliable source instead. And here is, look, I'm not going to read all of that, but you can see, if you just stopping here for a minute, or of course the article is linked in the description, you can go ahead and check out and read all this for yourself and what it all means. So scrolling down, it says Wikipedia warns that if no such source exists, that may suggest that the information is inaccurate. In other words, the only media reports that are considered trustworthy are those reported by leftist legacy media. Media sources that fall under no consensus are marginally reliable and may be usable depending on the context, Wikipedia warns. So we're getting like a summary of what it says above. It says, while editors have not reached a consensus on the media source's reliability, each entry that cited that source may be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. In other words, users are expected to jump through hoops before confidently using such sources. Finally, there is the generally reliable sources label, or the creme de la creme, under Wikipedia's eyes, and we're going to go with that further down. Not cutting that out. Deep breath. So it says, which outlets are effectively blacklisted? It says, MRC Free Speech America used the publicly available media bias chart provided by All Sides, a media ratings company that classifies media sources as having a right or left bias, to check Wikipedia's ratings of right-leaning media outlets. MRC researcher analysis determined that not a single media source listed by All Sides as lean right or right, that's 29 in total, is deemed generally reliable by Wikipedia. Yeah, so it, as they said at the beginning, it blacklists everything right-leaning. On the contrary, an overwhelming majority of right-leaning media sources, 22 out of 29, are stained with either the blacklisted, deprecated, or generally unreliable label. The media sources that did not meet the initial guillotine were instead thrown under the no consensus category, which, as explained earlier, is more or less the same as being banned. In other words, Wikipedia effectively blacklists all right-leaning media sources. Wikipedia impugned Breitbart News, one of the most recognized right-leaning media sources on the blacklist, due to perceived abuse. The site has published a number of falsehoods, conspiracy theories, and intentionally misleading stories as fact, Wikipedia claims of the media outlet. I'm going to press a massive X to doubt on that. I've been going to Breitbart for years at this point. They have never, not a single time, had to retract any story or come out with some sort of apology about something they reported. It hasn't happened. Okay, I would say that's about, even though they are definitely right-leaning, but I would say that should be a testament to the fact that they do tell the truth. And these jackasses at Wikipedia are like, no, they lie. Anyway, yeah, so that pisses me off. Breitbart is an actual reliable source. That's why I go to them. It says Wikipedia labels other right-leaning media sources as deprecated, including the Daily Caller, Daily Mail, Newsmax, OANN, Zero Hedge, and the Epoch Times. And there's a Daily Caller's little thing there. And I don't go to Daily Caller that often because for whatever reason, all the computers I've had since I started looking at news, which is only like, I think maybe three computers, I don't know, including this one, the Daily Caller website just doesn't work that well on them for whatever reason. I don't know why. So that's just why I don't go. It's not like anything against them. It's just the site just doesn't work very well. So the outlets deemed generally unreliable. Of course, they have Fox News on there, politics and science and talk shows, Blaze Media, the Daily Wire, the Federalist, the New York Post, the Post Millennial, and the Washington Free Beacon. Like most of those are sources that I use for my stuff, and where are the retractions from these sites? Or where are the articles saying or where's something saying they're wrong? They're going to say, of course, there's the Fox News Dominion stuff, which, okay, fine, but that's one. Okay, that's one example. Okay, and I can at the very same time say CNN, if you listen to some of my older videos, had just lost a defamation lawsuit last week for something really bad. Okay, so yeah, there's the same, it goes both ways. So as MRC conducted this investigation, Wikipedia broke Fox News into three categories, describing its talk shows and any news segments covering politics and science as generally unreliable. The other Fox News segments are placed under no consensus, and here's the screen of that. And I mean, if it's just something on, and the only reason I know the shows are because my dad has Fox News on all the time. Hi, Dad. But it's something like Outnumbered or The Five. Those are opinion shows. They're not straight up news shows. Okay? So yeah, I can understand why those may not be seen as reliable, but they still have to report on things honestly, you would think, and they do, because again, where's the last time you saw anybody on Fox News getting hit with a lawsuit about something false? That CNN lawsuit that just happened, Jake Tapper was right in the middle of it, and you never heard anything from him about it. Anyway, let's continue on. It says, outlets under the no consensus label are the American Conservative, the Independent Journal Review, National Review, the Washington Times, and the Washington Examiner. It says, Wikipedia has yet to target the following media sources, which also means they have not received the encyclopedia's approval: the American Spectator, Christian Broadcasting Network, Upward. I like how it's got the exclamation point there. I've never heard of them, though. Just the Press, or just the News. I'm sorry, I combined the Free Press with that, but the Free Press, Fox Business, and the Dispatch. The Free Press is done by Barry Weiss, who is not a conservative. She's a centrist. So, I mean, yeah, and the Dispatch is was it up here? It was National Review. Those are neocon sort of things. But yeah, okay. It says, to make matters worse, other media sources not included in the All Sides Media Bias Chart are also maligned. For instance, the Media Research Center and its flagship media subdivisions, that's mrctv.org and Newsbusters, are dubbed generally unreliable because some Wikipedia editors believe these sources publish false or fabricated information. Is that their actual terminology? Terminology says that they believe they publish misinformation or fabricated information, so you just think they do? That's what you're saying? Not that they actually do? I mean, that's a problem. Okay, there's a difference between we think they do and they actually do. So since its founding in 1987, not one MRC study, whether it is uncovering bias in cable news or exposing big tech election interference, has proven false or fabricated, or has been proven false or fabricated. Yeah, and I'd say that's a hell of a track record there going back nearly 40 years. It says, which media sources Wikipedia rubber stamps? While none of the right-leaning media sources have received Wikipedia's stamp of approval, the story is quite different for the media sources on the left. Yeah, this ought to be fun. So get ready to laugh, I'm sure. It says Wikipedia dubbed only one, it's Alternet, I've never heard of them, out of 44 media sources deemed center, lean left, or left by All Sides as generally unreliable. All Sides identifies 32 media sources that are also rated by Wikipedia as lean left or left, with 27, or 84%, deemed generally reliable. Meanwhile, the leftist encyclopedia gives the green light to considers generally reliable the following media sources in the lean left category: ABC News, Axios, Bloomberg News, CBS News, CNN, Insider, NBC News, The New York Times, NPR, Politico, ProPublica, Time Magazine, USA Today, The Washington Post, and Yahoo News. And how many of those guys got USAID funds besides Politico? And the New York Times actually did too. And the New York Times being considered generally reliable is a hoot. Same with NPR and Politico and ProPublica and the USA Today and Time and the Washington Post and Yahoo News and CNN. Some of those other ones, okay, but still they're not great. Anyway, says Wikipedia approves the following left media sources: the Associated Press, the Atlantic, the Guardian. The Guardian's not left. They're leftist. They're like far left. And same with all these other ones here too. HuffPost, Intercept, Jacobin, Mother Jones, MSNBC, The Nation, The New Yorker, and Vox. Those are horrible sites. They're always getting clowned on X for being wrong about stuff, and they're calling them favorable. It says the inclusion of some of these outlets is generally reliable is nothing short of astonishing, as I just kind of seem to elucidate. It says given their history of spreading misinformation, falsehoods, and misleading information. Why I say misinformation and misleading information? Isn't that basically like the same thing? Anyway, just for instance, take the Wuhan laboratory leak theory, a story widely dismissed by the legacy media as a conspiracy theory, but later confirmed as the likely cause of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is by March 16, 2020, Senator Tom Cotton, Republican of Arkansas, one of the first publicly outspoken proponents of this theory, and he was right, as the article said, had his Wikipedia page soiled by a coronavirus conspiracy theory subheader detailing his position that the coronavirus outbreak could have been caused by the communist Chinese regime. And there's a picture below there. And yep, you can see it right here. It says coronavirus conspiracy theories. At that time, Wikipedia cited the Washington Post's complete dismissal of the theory. Tom Cotton keeps repeating a coronavirus conspiracy theory that was already debunked. Who already debunked it? Nobody knows. Just them saying, yeah, that's not what happened. That's it. A little over a month later, Wikipedia scrubbed the conspiracy theories framing from Cotton's coronavirus subheader, but continued to cite leftist media pouring cold water on the theory. For instance, a headline by the New York Times read, Senator Cotton repeats fringe theory of coronavirus origins. Fringe theory only if, you're a moron. Everybody was saying that from day one, and just whatever. The New York Times was like, nah, it didn't happen that way, we're just going to report it like that, and now everyone's going to believe us. Deep breath again. It says fast forward to 2025, and several federal agencies issued reports concluding they believe COVID-19 leaked from the Wuhan lab, with the CIA becoming the latest entity to back this theory. The Washington Post and the New York Times, to a lesser degree, went on to edit their articles, and the Washington Post's correction reading, quote, earlier versions of this story and its headline inaccurately characterized comments by Senator Tom Cotton regarding the origins of the coronavirus. The term debunked and the Post's use of conspiracy theory had been removed because, then as now, there was no determination about the origins of the virus. But remember, they called it a conspiracy theory, so their intent was to make you think that there was a determination about the origins of the virus, when in fact there hadn't been, but they just went, nah, it's a conspiracy theory anyway. Another great example is the Hunter Biden laptop scandal bombshell. Yeah, this ought to be fun. The several media sources described as generally reliable by Wikipedia dismissed the New York Post's October 14, 2020 expose on the infamous laptop from hell, which exposed the then Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden had lied about his role in his son's foreign business dealings. NPR refused to report the story, suggesting it was false when it wasn't. It says, we don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories, and we don't want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. So NPR should be defunded, and hopefully Trump will get to that soon, or Elon. Whoever's doing the cost cutting right now, someone get to it. So on April 1st, 2020, so April Fool's Day of 2021, NPR issued a correction. I would think people thought that they were probably BSing because it was April Fool's Day. So they issued a correction after falsely claiming the story had been discredited. A previous version of the story said U.S. intelligence had discredited the laptop story. U.S. intelligence officials have not made a statement to that effect. Okay. The false claim was likely prompted by another misleading story by Politico, another outlet hailed as reliable by Wikipedia, now that we know was paid off by U.S. aid. At the height of the laptop scandal, Politico ran a story claiming the story is Russian disinfo, dozens of former intel officials say. Yes, and every single one of them lied, and they should all be in prison. The still published story blindly quoted over 50 former intelligence officials who, at the request of Anthony Blinken, then a Biden campaign surrogate, signed a public letter claiming the story has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. I think Blinken was the one that put that together and got them all to do that. So he's the tip of the spear, I think. Despite the assurances, the laptop scandal was not Russian disinformation. In fact, the FBI had possession of the laptop before the New York Post story and used its contents against the criminal charges of Hunter Biden. The bombshell went on to be censored by big tech companies and legacy media, hindering the story's reach. The coordinated media censorship, according to an MRC poll conducted by the polling company, swayed the 2020 presidential election in favor of Joe Biden. Despite these major issues, Wikipedia continues to praise the media outlets that committed journalistic malpractice by refusing to accurately report on these events, because of course they do. So it says Wikipedia's long history of leftist bias. As Wikipedia's blacklisting system is not a random occurrence, as it appears to echo the vision of current NPR president and CEO Catherine Marr, the radical leftist who was previously the chief executive officer of the Wikimedia Foundation. I wonder if it's going to have the quote from her somewhere in here where you can actually find her saying, like, that, like, we shouldn't be, like, basically it was about, like, her saying something to the effect of, like, that we shouldn't be concerned with the truth, something to that effect, and it's like, I'm sorry, what? Is what you'd want to say to her? Like, just one of those quotes, it's like, how do you think saying this makes you look? Like, do you think this makes you look in any way good? Anyway, it says, Marr joined Wikimedia in 2014 as a chief communications officer, directing the nonprofit's public image until she became executive director in 2016. From that time until she stepped down in 2021, Marr worked hammer and tong to create a system that presented the worst descriptions about her political opponents, censoring so-called disinformation and ensuring that Wikipedia relies almost exclusively on left-leaning sources that tend to be antagonistic to conservatives and Republicans. There's no period at the end of that sentence, guys. It says Marr seemingly referenced the blacklist during an interview with the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab, or DRF Lab, or we could say DRFLAB. We'll be stupid about it. It says, when asked whether Wikipedia has faced any threats in terms of mis- and disinformation, Marr claimed that the editing community has a very high sort of scrutiny on what constitutes a reliable source. Well, apparently not. She went on to detail Wikipedia's policies further. There are clear practices in place, she added, about if you're editing on a sensitive topic, such as medical information or a biography of an individual or an upcoming political event or a breaking news story, around what constitutes something that's reliable enough to go into that. In 2018, Marr mirrored these claims in an interview with leftist media outlet Slate's tech podcast If Then, saying Wikipedia's choices or policies require editors to cite back to what we call reliable sources, which turns out none of them are actually reliable. So she further warned, it means that people can't just put out fringe theories based on what their interests are. They have to find citations and information. It has to be peer-reviewed or published or have some editorial scrutiny. Says Marr skewed Wikipedia so much to the left that even Larry Sanger, Wikipedia's co-founder, spoke out against it. Wikipedia no longer has an effective neutrality policy, Sanger wrote in a blog on May 14, 2020. Sanger called out Wikipedia's glaring bias against then-President Trump, the pro-life movement, and Christianity. For instance, he compared how the online encyclopedia smeared Trump while turning a blind eye to Obama. It is time for Wikipedia to come clean and admit that it abandoned NPOV, for example, neutrality as a policy, he warned. At the very least, they should admit that they have redefined the term in a way that makes it utterly incompatible with its original notion of neutrality, which is the ordinary and common one. Says Marr stepped down as Wikimedia's head in 2021, leaving behind a massive $140 million endowment to unlock the world's knowledge. It says, however, what she unlocked was a knowledge shaped exclusively by leftist media narratives, all while effectively blacklisting right-leaning media. Marr came under fire in 2024 after her past social media activity exposed her leftist bias on a series of political issues. Her past tweets could have come straight from the mouth of an ardent liberal activist, noted National Review in 2024. I'd go with communist, not liberal activism. She's a commie. There's in one instance, Marr appeared to refer to Trump as a racist. And again, I'm still waiting for anyone to provide proof of that, and you can't because it doesn't exist. What is that deranged racist sociopath ranting about today? I truly do not understand, she wrote in May 2020, according to National Review. In July 2020, Marr self-described as someone with cis-white mobility privilege. Just a bunch of gobbledygook leftist words. In another May post, Marr seemingly condoned looting in the name of social justice. I mean, sure, looting is counterproductive, but it's hard to be mad about protests not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression founded on treating people's ancestors as private property. Again, she's a communist. Okay, and that's such a stupid way of looking at things. In May 2024, Marr failed to testify before the House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Oversight Investigations, which had launched an investigation into NPR's rampant leftist bias. She provided written testimony instead. Well, maybe the Trump team can get her in there and actually, sit her ass down in a chair and say, you're going to talk. And then it goes into the methodology, which we don't need to go into. And, it said, and that wasn't this editor's note we don't need to go into because it wasn't there when I read it. Anyway, there it is. I mean, that's what, a good 20 minutes or something at this point. I probably lost track of time. 20 minutes, half hour, somewhere in there. But yeah, that's it. So if you're ever looking to use Wikipedia as a source, well, don't. And here's why. So let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Share any examples of Wikipedia bias that you can. I just love to see those. But let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe. I will talk to you soon. Bye.